right, welcome to the Church Dropout Podcast. My name is Alan. I'm the host. Church Dropout is a podcast. We talk about issues, topics, and teachings related to faith, life, and culture in ways that are sometimes funny, sometimes serious, but always insightful. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. You know, I do my best to, jump in the comments and respond and read them. I think there's gold inside of the comments. I love hearing your voices, and hearing, the kind pushback and the other thoughts that you have to add to the conversation. I think there's just gold down there. And every now and then we get a troll, who really aren't engaging the conversation as much as they're pushing their theology. But yeah, it's a great place. And one of the things that I was thinking about that came up in the comments was, God is purging his church. God is, he's cleaning house. And I've heard this before, that God is cleaning house, and I don't know, there could be some truth to that. And I'm not saying I even disagree with that. What I'm going to say may just be a variation of that same thing. Maybe it's looking at the glass, half empty or half full, right? But yeah, the idea that God is cleaning out his church, and there's going to come a time where God, fully, cleans his community, right? I mean, right now, obviously the wheat is growing with the tares, right? And these things will be sorted out fully at the end, in the end, right? When the kingdom is fully revealed, when Jesus returns, these things will be fully sorted out. However, there is the idea that God is purging his church now, that he's also at work in his church now. And I do believe he's at work, but let me give you a little bit of a variation to how I feel like he's working in the church now, like what's happening. I don't know if I believe that God is purging the church as much as I believe that God is revealing the church. I think he's revealing the church. I think he is, and that's more of an offensive approach, right? I think what God is doing is reorienting his church toward what faithfulness actually looks like, and away from, or separating from what worldly power uses religion for, toward what God desires for his community. I think he's revealing his church. And what better way to reveal the church than through fire? Fire in scripture is like one of the, it is the ultimate purifying agent, right? And, the scripture talks about how our faith is going to be purified, right, by fire. And so, I think that right now Christianity's, under fire. And, to be honest with you, I think it's under fire by culture in terms of whether or not people believe Christianity is true, right? So you got the conversations happening about, whether or not Christianity is real and true. You got conversations happening between Christianity and other religions that are pressing, and, the approach of other religions into American culture. You got government and politics are pressing in on the church. And you have all of these things that are causing tension within the church, and how we respond will reveal whether or not we are God's church or part of God's church or not. Right? Will we conform? Will we adopt and synchronize? Will we respond angrily? Will we abandon what Christ has called us to do? These fires are opportunities for the real church to be revealed, right? And I think that's what's happening right now. I think the church is being revealed. And, the church is not, in my opinion, the church is not meant to exist in the mainstream, and never has. It's a fringe religion, right? Like it goes against what culture generally values. Christianity moves in a different direction. And, And the church has never fit into the mainstream without being compromised in some specific way. So the church has always existed. It's always been there. It may have been overshadowed by movements, but the church has been there. But I think what's happening right now is God is revealing his church, because there's a lot of people who I feel are deceived, who think they're following Jesus, but they're following, an idea. And I think God is bringing that to the forefront, right? I think God is revealing his church and what his church looks like and what his church ought to be doing. And I think as Christians in America, we're trying to fight, I believe, a lot of the things that God is doing, because I'm not saying, listen, man, I'm not saying that I want to be persecuted or anything like that. Like that's not. But, there's kind of this overwhelming idea where Christians in America are fighting to be comfortable, right? You got the president saying things like, creating laws that are going to protect Christians because Christians are under fire and different things of this sort. And it's like, man, didn't the scripture say that we'll be persecuted for Christ's name's sake? I think we're fighting for a privilege and opposed to fighting to be who God called us to be in the world and pushing back against the darkness. We've actually entered into the darkness and taken on some of those characteristics. And I think God right now is revealing the church. He is showing what his true church is. And I think, again, that people are starting to wake up to this reality that what we call Christianity today is not necessarily Christianity. There is a disconnect between what we see in scripture and what's actually being lived. And we see a different Christ figure that's being propped up in culture that just doesn't align with what the scripture says. And I think this is a part of God's revealing process to call those who are his, into a faithful worship of him in his church. I remember hearing a story. I don't even know where this story came from. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember the details of the story, so I'm probably telling it in my own way. But I think this story illustrates, I think, what God is trying to do. Or what God is trying to do, what God may be doing with his church and revealing it. But there was a group of Christians, a large group of Christians who were worshiping in a church. And all around them, there was war, there was chaos. People were being executed for their faith. And as they were worshiping, they hear these knocks on the door, violent knocks on the door. They could tell that this was not hand knocks, that this was knocks by the butt of a gun or some type of weapon. And they finally, kicked the door in and made their way into the sanctuary where all these people were worshiping. And they said, listen, we are going to kill you. And we're going to kill you unless you renounce your faith. And we're going to give you a minute to think about that. You renounce your faith, we'll let you go freely. You can walk out of this place. And so, dead silence is in the room. And before you know it, one by one, people start to walk out. One goes, then another goes, then another goes, then another couple leaves. They're all renouncing their faith because they want to live. And what's left is, a handful of Christians left in that room. And the gentlemen, or the individuals that, not gentlemen, but the individuals that kicked in the door, go to the door, lock it, chain it, and they come back to the group. And the group falls to their knees and they start praying because they know that this is it. And the guys with the guns say, no, wait, get up, stand up. And they stand up and they're confused, right? Like as to what's going on. And the guy with the gun says, listen, we now know who are the true Christians here, and we're here to worship, right? So the whole process was to reveal who really was the Jesus followers in that room, who can be trusted to carry the faith, who's going to be faithful to God when tensions mount, when things get difficult, or when culture is pressing against it, or nations are pressing against it, or things or people that we love are pressing against it. Are we going to choose to continue to worship these idols, or are we going to follow Jesus? And I think right now the church is being revealed. And I think God is at work with purifying his church, revealing what and who his church is for the work that needs to be done. Because I think the church has gotten off base here in America. And I'm hearing also, even through the comments, that the same thing is happening in the UK, same thing is happening in these other places where Christianity is being overthrown by some, governmental, political religion that doesn't resemble what we see in Scripture. So my understanding is that God is revealing the church. There will always be weeds growing with the wheat. There will always be, individuals who seem to be following Jesus, but when things get tough, they walk away. However, I think God is revealing his church because of the purpose that he has for his church today. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. We're not spending time out in the harvest as much as we're trying to change culture without relationship, without loving it. And, the Christian faith is being, changed. And so anyway, those are my thoughts. I just wanted to kind of say that again, just the church is being revealed. It's being revealed. And we're going to continue to see it, especially as things get tougher, in our culture. And we need to pray for our brothers and sisters, those who truly love Jesus. We need to pray and, pray that we are all not deceived when that time comes. And we need to do that humbly. And we need to demonstrate exactly what we are trying to convey, that, God is love, Christ is love. And he demonstrated his love for the world by giving himself. And then that same thing we're called to be reconcilers in the world by giving ourselves, and by loving people sacrificially. And, we need to pray and love our brothers and sisters sacrificially, and love our neighbors and love our enemies, and do what the scripture says so that we can reveal what the church truly is. So anyway, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear what you think about this. Thank you for tuning into the Church Dropout podcast, and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. Talk to you soon. God bless.